Well, the Sixers return home from a 3-game winless road trip, finishing up in Memphis on Wednesday night. Tonight, they start a 3-game homestand, beginning with Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, and the Brooklyn Nets. This is an NBA game, Cup number 3, by the way, for the Sixers. 0-2 for them. The Nets 1-1. And we have a lot to discuss here on the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. Rich Hoffman, Devon Givens, Brianna here with you right there in the chat. And just before we came on live on the show, we got word that no Joel Embiid tonight. Did not go through his pregame workout, according to Derek Bodner. Kyle Neubeck tweeted out that he is out, Joel Embiid, tonight. So it's back to Tyrese Maxey running the show, and he's still probably on a minutes restriction, Rich, as they take on the Brooklyn Nets.
Devon, this is bad, man. This is really, really bad. When you're 2-12, you cannot afford to have your star player. You have 2 of your star players out, and another one is going to play what? 20 minutes
20
tonight?
Minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a disaster. And I mean, guys, like, we're getting close to, I was the last person to say that the Sixers should tank this year. Like, and I think you and Kyle, especially Kyle, has made the point that you can't tell Joel Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey that you're going to tank. Devon, if you start 4-25 or something like that, you tell them that's great that you don't want to tank, but we are tanking at this point. It's a nightmare. I mean, Joel, he has a very positive performance the other night, I thought. And it's funny, a lot of the conversation has been about his comments after the game and just a little bit of a woe is me type act, which I don't really care about quite as much. I thought his performance in the game the other night was the most positive thing I've seen from this team, from somebody not named Jared McCain in like 2 weeks, right? He scores, he gets over 30 points, gets to the free throw line 14 times. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. He wasn't jumping like Joel usually does. He was pretty ground bound. He plays the entire third quarter, but we get to tonight, Devon, and he cannot play due to left knee injury management. And that stinks, man. Like, and I'm not doubting that it's hurting him. I'm not doubting his toughness. I'm not really even trying to criticize him on any of those fronts. It's a bummer. And the reality is, for a team that needs a win in the worst way possible, it's like the last thing that you can have. And it stinks.
So even if you read our description in underneath our YouTube show, we're allowed to have a headline and we're allowed to have a description to kind of lay out what we're going to do for the show. And if you notice, we start off with Tyrese Maxey in the description, but we put Joel Embiid also, but in parentheses, maybe with a question mark, just because he's been questionable all day. And now we get the update that he is not playing tonight against this Brooklyn Nets team. And as you said, Rich, they're in desperate need of a win. They desperately need a win because it starts with one. You get the win. We can't predict that they're going to win the next 2, the next 3, or even the next 1. But they needed something. And we've already seen Tyrese Maxey with this collection of players around him that it's been a struggle every single game to try to get that win. It took one overtime against Indiana to get that win. And then the next one was the Charlotte game where, again, it took overtime to get that win. So it hasn't been good. And I even jokingly said, and I think it was Al once when I said, this team right now without Paul George and without Joel Embiid, they're a lottery team.
Like a high lottery team, too.
And, Al bit back and said, come on now, you're going too far. I don't think we're going too far, Rich, based on what you said, based on the amount of games, the sample size of games that we've seen without George and Embiid, with Tyrese Maxey on the floor, and now he's on a minute restriction. This is, as you said, this is not good at all. If they get to the point of Kyle gave the number, and then we went on from there, what if they're 25 games in, 27 games in, and they're still sitting at 5-20 or 7-20, whereas many times as we've gotten reports thus far stating that the head coach, the general manager are all safe, where you're not trading any players of significance where it's going to ruffle the locker room or make any kind of statement. And while that may be true, that the head coach and the general manager are, in fact, safe. We talked to Mark Stein the other night post-game, and he mentioned a similar thing. Something, though, when you're that bad, when the expectations were supposed to be flipped, at 20-7 instead of 7-20, something has to be said. Something has to happen for the message to get through clearly, because it hasn't been the team meeting by that point, and it hasn't been some of these other things that we're going to get into, where we're going to look back and we're like, all right, what is going on here, and what's going to happen to push this thing along? Of, you guys better get it straight.
I just don't like what this says about the state of his knee, right? That he plays, he played 2 games this week, and obviously he pushed it, and I thought he played really well the other night. But what does this say? Like, is he going to have to sit out? This is not a back-to-back, Devon. We talked about before the season that
every one of these 3 games, Rich, they're all spaced out.
What do they still have? 14 back-to-backs left?
Yes.
And he's not going to play those? I mean, these are all spaced out, and I am a little bit worried about what it says about the state of his knee. I'm not even look, I'm not criticizing him, guys. I'm really not. But it's just, it's a tough one. And, the idea that this is not going to pop up again, I am just worried about the state of his knee. Look, they could win the night. They will play on Sunday against the Clippers. Maybe they get to win the night. But in fairness, Devon, they shouldn't be favored tonight. I think at best, this is what, a 50-50 game?
Before this news, they were favored by 4 points. I'll check it to update it.
I bet you it's been dropped by a lot, because look, Joel is the reason that these guys have been good in the regular season for such a long time. So hopefully Tyrese plays better. That's the other thing with tonight's game, Devon. Tyrese the other night, you and Kyle were talking about it on the post-game show. He struggled, man. He looked like a guy who probably should not have been out there. So it's tough. It's been a rough season, man. And I thought tonight, if Joel would have played, I felt pretty good coming off the last game. It's all right, 30 points. Here we go. 30 points against the Nets team at home that you should be able to handle. Doesn't have the size to deal with him. You get a nice, easy win. Oops. So it's just been a punch in the gut consistently covering this team. They could still win. They could still win the night, but it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, it really is. So when you look at Joel Embiid, we'll start there. We'll get to Paul George shortly. But when you start with Joel Embiid, this spells, like you said, that he's hurt. So is it in their best interest to just simply shut him down for a little bit and let him get as healthy as possible, see where this thing goes? Paul George maybe comes back a little bit sooner than expected, and he and Maxey can get their chemistry going with the rest of the guys and start to steal some of these wins. Because when we were talking about it the other night, yes, they are supposed to be without 1 or 2 from time to time, but someone is generally going to be out there with Tyrese Maxey where he's not running the show. We don't even know what that looks like, because that duo was short-lived, of being able to go out there on the floor, build some chemistry, see what that looks like together. And you're right, man. I mean, we might all be taking a trip up to New Jersey collectively as a show. Bree, get the car ready, because we might be going to have
might be doing watch-alongs for the Big Ten Network
from my nephew's dorm room. Yes, so we can watch Ace Bailey, man, because this is that bad today. It could change, as you said. It could change.
I'm just looking for the signs. And
those signs are
Winona's
unlikely.
killing me. Winona thinks that this team is 20-7 right now. I've never heard this guy be positive. Winona, your team is 2-12 right now. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Come on. There's nothing to be positive about right now. Yes, Jared McCain has been awesome this year. I agree. But, can we get something positive? Can we get a win in regulation? Can we get Joel Embiid to play 1 week? I'm sorry. I feel like our jobs here are to be truth tellers, and the truth is that this stinks right now. Fair?
It's fair.
Come
it's fair,
on.
because it does stink. It stinks really bad right now. And let's get to the other thing that we wanted to talk about, where Jake Fisher of Mark Stein's Substack now just announced yesterday. Jake Fisher had, he's doing some things with him. He has his podcast out there as well. And Jake talked about, Rich, how Embiid, if he was going to play tonight, or maybe
he wasn't going to play tonight.
Maybe another. They have 3 home for 3 games, so maybe he plays against the Clippers on Sunday. James Harden's back in town, and he was going to have maybe a message after a basket scored to the fan base. And I know you wanted to talk about this, of where he is right now, because we've had the incident with Marcus Hayes. We've had that fine. We've had the back-to-backs from the very beginning of the season, where he wasn't going to play that. The message also a little off from the organization overall. What he said to to the media after the game when he was asked about the team meeting, what meeting? That's one right there. And then you also have him just flipping out because the story was leaked about what was said in that meeting, and Tyrese Maxey calling him out.
He was going to sneak out the snitch.
He wanted to find out who the snitch was. By the way, when we were talking the other day, I was on a show, a local show here, radio in New Jersey with our friend Mike Gill, and I said to Mike, if that's the case, then he needs to go out there and find out. If he's ticked off, he needs to go find out who it was. Hours later, he says post-game, or I want to know who said it. Well, go find out, because you're not playing right now. So go find out. Go do get your hat, get your magnifying glass, and do all that stuff. Get your flashlight and go see who you can find where this came from. There's just so much that is telling him right now about this season at 2-12, the things he's not doing, how bad the team looks, Nick Nurse, all of it. And he says also that whatever he does, there always seems to be like this black cloud hovering over him. Oh, it kind of starts with you, with the organization. And as much as we have stood up for him and had his back locally and nationally, when we've all been on podcasts and radio shows and television hits that we've done because of the discourse around him.
You just wish he could eat it every once in a while.
And he's matured and gotten better, but he's reverting back to the old self.
And I understand, too, like the idea of that was, a 45-minute team meeting the other night. And really the only detail that came out was Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid. And I understand as an NBA superstar, you might look at that and say, man, we talked about a lot of stuff in that meeting. And the fact that it got boiled down to those, 30, 45 seconds, I understand the frustration. It's just like at some point you can make the story go away by eating it at that point. So, there was that Jake Fisher report that he was going to do something crazy tonight. I guess we'll never know if that was the case because he's not going to play. But yeah, like you just want him. I am specifically pretty worried about his mental health and where he is at mentally because of the injury, right? And he's talked about this, Devon. He's talked about how this has been the hardest injury to come back from, not just physically, but mentally. It's the hardest one. And I just see a lot of this behavior. It's like you said, right? Like he can't kind of get out of his own way. And I wonder if it comes back to, oh man, his body is failing him a little bit. He just doesn't exactly understand how to deal with it. And if that's the case, I just hope he finds whatever piece he needs, both to play well on the court, but really just as a person, because it's somebody who has gone through a lot of trauma in his life. I have no idea what it's like to lose a brother, for example, and all of those things too. So that's just something that kind of is on my mind with all of this stuff right now. I just hope that he can get into a better place mentally, because I do think the frustration of the injury is getting to him a bit here.
I agree. I really do. And we were also, when he, just to defend him in the part that we defend him, when all the stuff was talked about him not playing against Nikola Jokic in Denver during last year's trip, because he shouldn't have been playing with that knee, and then it happens, he goes out, he felt pressured to get out there against the Golden State Warriors. We weren't. It was the national media and the Denver media who was pointing this out, that he has not played at all.
I'll defend him against those guys all the time.
All the time.
That's such a Philly thing too, right? Like you can get on him, we can get on him, but you can't. And honestly, some of their takes are bad. Like there was a thing from Denver the other night freaking out about the play where Jaren Jackson tripped him. It was like, oh, what a flopper. And the thing had like hundreds of retweets on Twitter. Jaren Jackson was the biggest flopper on that play. Like I'll defend him for that stuff until he's done playing. Like honestly, because he puts his body out there. But it does seem like he's really paying attention to those national media type things. Yeah. And it's just like, it's probably not the best for him. You know? He might need to log off.
So you would always come on The Fanatic and you would go on the afternoon show and you would discuss the stuff. And I know you listen to my show sometimes at night also. And one of the things I would say was for the national media, because rarely do I care what they say, because they're not here. We don't know. Just like we have a hard time talking about things in other cities with other basketball teams. And one thing I would always say was stay out of family business. And while that is their family business within the locker room, we all thought that Joel could have handled that much, much better. We defended him with the Marcus Hayes thing. But he doesn't have to be right all the time. And it was his choice of how he handled the media after everything was laid out there if he's playing with an injury. The team we've talked about could have handled things better with the message out there. And if they need to shut him down, shut him down. If he needs to answer questions in the locker room, he's a veteran. he is one that you said he can let things get to him, eat at him, but he can be better in answering those questions in the locker room as well, where he doesn't come out and say the things that he has said. If he's hurt, I was just writing back to our friend Elaine Bruno in the chat that told me to chill out. Do you want him to play while he's hurt? No, I don't. No, I don't. Actually, I do not. But they can also say that. That's the transparency of it all. Yeah. Say he's hurt and he has to sit out for as long as that time is. We knew that there's a chance that he could be still hurt after watching him in the Olympics.
You're mad about the messaging. We're just bummed. We're bummed that he's hurt. We're not mad at him.
No, absolutely not. So because of that, Elaine, that's why I think that he could be better when handling things publicly, and the team could have been better with their messaging about his injury and where he needs to be. And if Paul George and Tyrese Maxey were going to be the guys that ran the offense anyway when they're both healthy, then we have to see that and see if they can put together some wins. But until then, everything so far since they have started the season has been done wrong. It's just been wrong. They've had bad luck with the Paul George injury, Tyrese Maxey's hamstring. That's bad luck. The Joel thing, again, is that he can be better with how he handles the media and not say those things. He can't do anything about the injury if he's hurt. He can't. Just like I got on him for not playing against the New York Knicks when he did and came back because he had that time off. I got on him because why are you throwing the basketball off the backboard and trying to catch a dunk where you could risk injury doing that way? And what happened? He got injured. I didn't like the play in the moment when we were watching it. And as soon as he came down, he buckled his knee. And we know how he was for the rest of the series, even though he's a phenomenal player and he scored as many points as he did. He was limited because of that. So some of the decision-making that Joel has, I can question it. Rich can question it. The same for all of you. You can question it. And he's a leader. He's supposed to be a leader. He is not that vocal one that's going to get out there like Kyle Lowry and express it that way, but he does it in another way where it's admirable that he gets out there injured as a leader and shows that he's going to fight through and try to help the team as best as possible. But sometimes he does have to pull himself back and say, I can't play. Remember, his message was he agreed that he has to be better and how he goes about the season. He told us to Daryl Morey at the end of the season. He shared that with us. This is part of him being better.
Yeah.
That's it. Plain and simple. Again, his message, not ours, his message. So if he can't play, don't play.
Yeah.
Don't play.
So the other thing, too, about him as a leader, there have been times because, you see some wild takes right now about him that he's all, you hear people say stuff. He's always been a loser. He's always lacked accountability and leadership. And that's just not the case.
That is not the case.
Like, I always think back to the 21-22 season when Ben Simmons was holding out. And at the beginning of that year, they had very low expectations. We had no idea that Tyrese Maxey was going to be this level of a player. Mm-mm. They basically threw him to the Wolves and made him the starting point guard. And they were awesome for 2/3 of that season with Ben Simmons. I always used to say, speaking of Ben Simmons, who's ending that contract tonight, they were lighting $40 million on fire that year by just not doing anything about it. And it was because of Joel, and he was great. He played great. I thought he took the leadership mantle. So it's definitely been there. And when you get to this point that you're talking about, like, I just wish he would just be able to, like, I love that he's candid on one hand. Right?
I love it.
I love that he's candid.
I love it.
But it would be good if he could, it would benefit him if he could just brush some of this stuff aside. Because here's the thing, Devon. He's not the sole reason that this team is struggling right now.
No.
You have Tyrese Maxey disappointing and injured as well. Paul George, super disappointing, is injured. I mean, he got hurt the other night. He's lucky. He kind of got hurt the other night. He was awful in the first half of that game. He was terrible. And his game has fallen off a cliff. Nick Nurse, what are you doing? Like, seriously, been really disappointing as well. All the role guys have struggled too, except for Jared McCain and Yabusele. So it's not just Joel's fault here or whatever, but he's just making himself the story right now. So it's like he's definitely been handed some tough cards here. I just wish he would handle it a little bit better. Oh well, it's fine.
Yeah.
He's not playing tonight. I hope his knee gets better, but it's a little tough.
It's tough. Well, let's go and get a little more of the messaging from the arena as we check in with the gang, the team. Derek Bodner joining us live from the arena on the PHLY Sixers Pregame show presented by Coors Light to let us know the latest. And Derek, we're already in here heavy first First 20 minutes already on Joel Embiid. We haven't even gotten to anything else because of the latest. You said he did not go through go through his pregame shoot around. What else can you share with us?
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't gotten official clarification. There's a slight possibility maybe he did his shoot around before he got here. That would be very atypical. As Rich knows, Joe always does his shoot around at the very end. He is the last one to go through. So we went from Nick Nurse's pregame press conference to the locker room. We got to the locker room. Embiid's locker was closed. There was the brace sitting by the locker. It looked very much like a player who hadn't yet gotten ready to go through his pregame routine. So after we saw that, Kyle and I went out and stood, by the court and waited to see if Joel Embiid showed up, and he did not go through pregame routine at his normal time. Like I said, I have not been able to officially confirm that he didn't go through any. There is a slight possibility he would have gone through beforehand, or well before we got here. That would be very atypical. But he did not go during his normal slot. And Nick Nurse said before the game that he would go through his pregame routine and see from there. And to our knowledge, that did not happen.
Derek, what are we going to do?
I have no idea. I ask myself that every day, Rich, and I have no good answer for you.
Watch basketball.
Yeah, we're going to watch basketball and we're going to talk about it. Luckily, our jobs don't change all that much. The job remains the same. But what we talk about, boy, is this not what I think anyone expected? And you're sitting here and you're going to label this injury management. That's fine. They had off yesterday. They have off tomorrow. They're in a span where they're only going to play 2 games in a 7-day stretch. If this is management, how is this like part of a plan? If there's, if he's not able to play now, you need a reason why he's not able to play now. It might just be that the knee hurts or there's swelling or whatever have you, but they're so, reticent to use any kind of setback or swelling or anything like that. You can't just call it management when there's no real reason he would play other than some kind of, I don't even want to classify it as a setback, but some kind of swelling or pain or something going on that they're not really being forthcoming about. And obviously a lot of that comes at the direction of Joe. If he doesn't want them to say that there is swelling or that there's pain or if there's any kind of thing that would prevent him from playing, they're just going to label it injury management and move on from there. But I think the fans probably deserve a little bit better of an answer than that.
Darkness saying, what are we going to do? Become degenerate gamblers. And that's fair. You can only bet on the Nets tonight because they were the only team we knew which team was going to play.
Yep.
Real quick on the Sixers. Derek, what did Nurse say about Maxey's availability tonight?
Yeah, I think we're talking about like a 25 or so minute restriction, something of that sort, a little more than the other night, but not quite a full workload, or not even really close to it for a guy who very regularly plays 35 to 40 minutes. So something in a 25-minute range.
So we've seen that before, though, Derek, not necessarily the 20 to 25. It's more of seeing Tyrese Maxey out there with this collection of teammates that has not resulted in many wins at all this season. So what are we expecting tonight? What are you expecting tonight, especially since the Nets do have their guys, at least right now, in the lineup? Dorian Finney-Smith, who was questionable, along with Nick Claxton. They look good to play tonight.
Yeah, and look, the Nets aren't a great team, right? They're 6-9, but boy, does 6-9 feel a lot farther away from where this squad is right now. And like you said, we saw this squad with Tyrese Maxey and a whole bunch of role players earlier on in the season. It was not nearly enough. The one major difference there, obviously, is that Jared McCain is a mainstay of the rotation now. He is starting once again. And this is another data point we can point to of Maxey and McCain potentially playing alongside each other. You give a little bit more of a scoring punch with McCain in there. You can develop some two-man games, some chemistry between those two, some on-ball, off-ball reps, which is good. Is it enough to pull out a win? Sure, they can, but they also could have pulled out a win against Detroit and Toronto and a whole bunch of teams that they didn't even come close to. Miami, quite frankly, not exactly setting the world on fire, and they got blown out in the second half there. So I think there is some value, like I said, just to see how these two young kids, these two young guards played alongside each other. That's great. If you're looking for optimism on a win, I mean, this is not a team that has been able to close out a game consistently all year. So I would not necessarily have a ton of optimism for that here.
All right, man. Well, we'll let you get ready. Anything else, Rich?
No, I think that about sums it up.
So we'll let you go out there, get to your seat, man. Bring us some chocolate chip cookies back, if you will, and we'll be all good. We need.
Buddy, if I take any extra chocolate chip cookies, there is a 0% chance they're going to exist long enough to get back to you, but I will enjoy myself at the very least.
All right, man. We'll go enjoy the game. We hope it's a good game for you to have to cover tonight. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you after the game.
Yep, thank you.
Derek Bodner joining us from the arena. and not, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
We're going to watch a game, and I would love a Jared McCain monster night. And I think we're skipping ahead to the keys of the game. I think
this Patient P, keys to the game. They're all in the one and the same right now.
Patient P is that Paul George, I say this while podcasting, please stop podcasting about a start that you have played a huge part in.
You had it perfectly when you tweeted it yesterday and I was thinking the same. I just didn't tweet it. I was just, my jaw dropped because we are not, first of all, you did that as the title of your show with Reggie Jackson. The other one was,
Paul, please.
The other one was, we can't have Jared McCain as our most important player. You're basically calling out your teammate. And he's been not saying that he's bad, but just saying that. Don't say that.
Paul, don't say that.
Come on, man.
So Paul George gets off easy again tonight because we have other stuff.
All right, we got a post-game show, man. So
we got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Keys to tonight's game: play like you did in the Cavs game. Spread the floor out. Shoot a million threes. You have McCain and Maxey in this game, at least for 20 minutes for Maxey. Probably not going to shoot a ton of free throws tonight. Spread the floor out. Caleb Martin, go ahead, bomb threes. Maybe you get a better Reggie Jackson game. It's going to have to be that type of night. If you play like you did against the Cavs, you might win because Brooklyn's not as good as the Cavs.
Yep. All right, let's get to our pick segment here. Well, we didn't know what to do because we were waiting on the update on Joel Embiid, his availability. This pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at these picks for the game. We have fun with these, and right now we both went Nets. I went with Ben Simmons over 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He is averaging over that number, and Joel's not playing. Paul George is not playing. So with the missed shots that the Sixers have had out there and their porous defense, I'd imagine that he can get his average of 6 to 7 assists and rebounds. It's just a matter of how many points will he contribute to that stat line. So I went with the over 17.5. He's pretty much been around that 19 number for the three in a combination. So that's why I went with Ben Simmons. What do you think of that one before we get to your Cam Thomas number?
The Sixers have been very bad in transition so far.
Yes.
Now, I will say that's probably the one thing that gets better when Joel is out, right? When he's not quite in the physical shape that he needs to be. But there probably should be some opportunities for Ben to drive. Of course, though, Devon, he doesn't take those opportunities anymore.
But there also isn't a lot of resistance there either at the rim if he does get there.
No.
Because starting tonight is Yabusele.
But the resistance is him. The resistance is that he doesn't want to take those shots anymore. In 2019, even in 2021, before the Trae Young thing happened, he was going to get to the rim against a team like this and get you close to 20 points just off easy stuff. So we'll see. I think, he's been, like you said, he's been right around that number. He's going to get his boards. He's going to get his assists. I went with Cam Thomas, just over 23.5 points. Cam Thomas is going to get those shots up, Devon. He's going to get those shots up. And honestly,
I'm all too familiar, man.
Win or lose, he's going to get those shots up. So that's why, Cam Thomas getting 28 points in a 10-point Nets loss, I think that is perfectly within the realm of possibility. So win or lose, I think that Cam Thomas is going to get his shots up.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. All right, and again, our pregame pick segment brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We also have to thank our pregame sponsor here, and that is Coors Light. The show was presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. Win or loss for this one, Rich? Bree, can you throw up the starting lineup, by the way, for us here? Win or loss?
Oh, man, I want to be positive. It's hard. Loss.
I agree. Loss. Starting lineup tonight, Maxey with McCain in the backcourt. Kelly Oubre back in the starting lineup along with Caleb Martin and Yabusele in for Joel Embiid at the 5. That is your front court.
I think it's going to be a close game.
It's going to be interesting, too, because Nick Claxton is like a pogo stick out there, man. The first jump and the second jump is very, very quick. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out tonight in that front court. But he does hustle, so those things will be there for him tonight. We'll see how it plays out. We both think it's a close loss tonight. Let's hope we're wrong as they come home.
Seriously, I hope we're wrong.
For
I hope we're talking
NBA Cup game number 3.
Winona, I hope we're talking about a 25-point win, and you can
No
talk
cookies, no cookies for Rich. She says
all the
sweet
smack.
potato cookies.
You can talk all the smack in the post game. I hope so, because man, we badly need to talk about one of those here. So
please,
hopefully
get a
Yabu's
win.
making his threes tonight. Hopefully Tyrese is making his shots tonight. We will see.
Yes, we will, and we will be talking about it post game right here in this very spot in this studio with you. We hope to you join us after the game as Eugene is going to scout Dorian Finney-Smith of the Brooklyn Nets. For Rich, Bree, I'm Devon, and for Derek as well. We'll talk to you after the game. Sixers-Nets, NBA Cup game number 3. That's coming up. We'll discuss it after the game. We'll see you then. Enjoy the game.
We all silly like the mayor.